I'm just not loud enough. Good afternoon. If you could all please take your seats. We want to give brief descriptions of our 2 workshops so that you know what happened in your other groups. And I was at the workshop that was in here for mission and worship groups. We focused on telling the story and how your story changes. Rich Crean from Pittsburgh told us the Pittsburgh story. And while going through it, he told us how to tell our own story. And when I first was hearing it, I thought, but I know how to tell a story. We've been telling it for a year. But our story is changing, and it was so great to hear their story and see how things have come about and see where we find ourselves in that story and where we're different. A couple of the things that came out of it, just notes I put down, that find the kingdom of God where you are. Reconciliation gives us a way forward, but it's not an easy road. We are coming out of a place of mourning to move forward and do God's work. It's easy to offer hospitality, but Jesus wants us to receive hospitality. In a little snippet, there are 42,000 denominations in the U.S. And as Chris said, and at least half of those have split over the color of the carpet.
Well, I was in the group for established parishes that just kept going, and we had a very rich discussion. The 2 people from Pittsburgh and Wilmot and I shared our stories a little bit, and then we had some Q&A, and these are the, if you want to say top 10 maybe, topics that came out, ideas that kept popping up. The first and one that kept popping up all the time was this: successful parish is a mission-oriented parish. Keep your eye on the prize. That, I kept writing that down all the time. One thing was that Pittsburgh said that they did was kept on being the church. And just like forgiveness and reconciliation is a process. It needs patience, and it's God's time, not our time. Transparency is very important. We came from our former leadership was obviously not transparent. It is very important to develop trust, to be transparent. Communications are extremely important. And we talked especially about using the Episcopal shield. We can't use our diocesan shield yet, but we can use the Episcopal seal. And addressing anger, and that is something that's going to be brought up, I believe, by Wilmot and the Standing Committee. And we thought there are people that are angry out there, and we need to address it and see how we can help heal that. How we respond spiritually determines the health of the outcome. And one idea, this is a specific idea that they had a prayer pilgrimage in which a group of, I believe it was laity, right? It was laity from all over the diocese would go around to the different churches in the diocese and pray there. Once a month, they'd be at a different one and went around. I thought that was an interesting idea that we might look into. And we noted that the parishes that were there had a there was a lot of discussion about the diocese, and my sense was that we now have a much better sense of who the diocese is and what the diocese does and an interest in it. And then just so I have 10, I put down mission-oriented, keep your eye on the prize.